What is up, guys? Randomonium here. The regular season has ended. It's time to talk playoffs. So in this video, I'm going to break down all the matchups for both NA and EU for the playoffs, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about Worlds. So let's get right into it. So the way that the playoffs are going to work is the number 3 seed plays the number 6 seed in the quarterfinals, and the number 4 seed plays the number 5 seed in the quarterfinals. The lower of the two seeds that wins will play the number 1 seed in the semifinals, and the higher of the two seeds will play the number 2 seed in the semifinals. And then, of course, we have the finals matchup and the third place matchup. So for the NA, we have Cloud9, the number 3 seed, playing Envy, the number 6 seed, and we have CLG, the number 4 seed, playing Team Liquid, the number 5 seed. So Cloud9 versus Envy. Cloud9 absolutely dominated Envy in the regular season. Envy looked very shaky towards the end of the split. For this reason, I do think that it's going to be a 3-0 in favor of Cloud9, a pretty easy road for them to get to the semifinals. CLG versus Team Liquid is going to be a much closer matchup, but CLG has been really coming online, looking really well towards the end of the split, and Team Liquid struggled against CLG in both of their matchups. For these reasons, I think that CLG is going to be able to beat Team Liquid 3-2. It'll be very close though. The only way that I think that Liquid can win is if they get like a really strong advantage early. So it's going to be really imperative for Team Liquid to win game 1 of the series. I think if the series goes to game 5, CLG will win. Just because Afremu is just an amazing shot caller, and CLG as a team is very clutch in the playoffs. So if this happens, if both Cloud9 and CLG win, then that means that CLG will face TSM in the semifinals and Cloud9 will face Immortals. The only way that CLG or Team Liquid could wind up facing Immortals is if Envy upsets Cloud9. So really it's the number 3 versus number 6 matchup determines who's going to play who in the semifinals. So for TSM versus CLG, this is, a very classic matchup. CLG won the last time that these teams met in the playoffs. However, I think that TSM, the split is just absolutely phenomenal, and I do think that TSM would beat CLG 3-2. Though I do think it's going to be very close, and TSM needs to be very careful with the series going to Game 5 because CLG just has a history of pulling off miracles in those really clutch situations, Game 5s and whatnot. For Immortals versus Cloud9, I feel like Immortals has got a chip on their shoulder. They were the favorites to win last split, and they kind of fell short of that. So I think that they're going to come in with renewed focus. They know that they can be beaten. I think last split they felt like they were unbeatable, and they kind of looked past a lot of their opponents. I don't think they're going to do that this time, and I do think that they will beat Cloud9 3-2 in the semifinals. That sets us up for the matchup we've all been waiting for the finals, TSM versus Immortals, and then third place we have Cloud9 versus CLG. TSM versus Immortals is going to be really amazing. I mean, that's the only words I have to describe it. TSM was able to get the victory in both of their regular season matchups, which makes Immortals incredibly hungry, and I think that they're going to play out of their mind in this match. However, I don't think it's going to be enough. I do think that TSM is the best team in NA. I do think that they will win the finals. I do think they will be going to Worlds. But Immortals will also clinch the number 2 spot if they're able to get second place. They should have enough championship points in order to make it to Worlds if they get second place. In the third, fourth matchup, Cloud9 versus CLG, I am going for the upset. I do think that CLG will be able to upset Cloud9 just because CLG has a history of upsetting and coming back and doing really well. I just think that CLG, because of the way things went, where they played the playoffs, they won the spring split, then they immediately went into MSI. They didn't really have any time for a break, and they just got burned out. And I think that's why they played so poorly in the beginning part of the split. Because I mean, it's the same players, same shot calling, same everything. The organization didn't change, and CLG just looked like night and day. I think that they finally kind of recovered. They're recharging their batteries, and they're peaking right at the perfect time. And I do think they'll be able to get third place, which will set them up very well for the regional qualifier to allow them to get back into Worlds. However, I'll go into that in a different video. Over on the EU side, we've got Giants versus Unicorns of Love in the first quarterfinal matchup, and Fnatic versus H2K. So Giants versus Unicorns of Love. I think that Giants is looking really strong. Nobody would have expected them to be the number 3 seed in EU, and I think that they're going to wind up going 3-1 versus Unicorns of Love. Unicorns of Love has looked better in the later part of the split, so I do think that they'll be able to get one game off of Giants. But Giants is just really on a roll, and I definitely see them at least making it to the semifinals. For Fnatic versus H2K, I know the H2K's got Forgiven back, but Forgiven's motivations have not been very good lately. He straight up just like quit for a while for League of Legends and started just playing Overwatch, and then he comes back. Meanwhile, Fnatic is known for just performing amazing in the playoffs. So I do think that Fnatic will steamroll H2K, even though Fnatic has looked a little shaky in the past. I think that they'll get their heads on straight and they'll come out guns blazing against H2K. So that'll set us up for G2 versus Fnatic and Splice versus Giants, which is very surprising because we all expected probably like G2 versus Fnatic in the finals, but because of the way the seeding works, that's not going to happen. The only way that Fnatic would avoid a G2 in the semifinals is if Unicorns of Love upsets Giants. So as far as G2 versus Fnatic, even though Fnatic has done phenomenal in the past in the playoffs, they have looked a little bit shaky. And against a strong team like G2, I think that G2 is going to punish that. They're going to be able to get the victory 3-2 versus Fnatic. And then Splice versus Giants, I also think this is going to be a really fun, really close match. But Splice, my God, they have looked absolutely amazing in the second half of the split. They're peaking right at the right time, and they are hungry. They are so hungry. They see that a world's spot is up for grabs, and they're just playing absolutely amazing. I don't think that they'll be stopped. I think that they're going to go on to the finals. So that sets us up for G2 versus Splice in the finals and Giants versus Fnatic for the third place matchup. And this is really interesting because Splice almost beat G2 in the regular split. And G2, just by making it to the finals, will guarantee that they will get into Worlds. And really, the number 1 and the number 2 seed from EU do not matter all that much because G2 did so poorly at MSI that Europe lost their Pool 1 spot, which is like the best spot that guarantees that you get a good group. So the number 1 and the number 2 seeds from EU will both be Pool 2, so there's no real advantage over getting first place versus second place. So G2 is guaranteed to get into Worlds if they make it to the finals. Splice, they have to win. They have to win. That's the only way that they guarantee their spot at Worlds. So I think that Splice is going to come out wanting it a lot more than G2 will. G2 does not have as much on the line as Splice does. I think Splice will rise to the occasion and they will upset G2 in the finals 3-2. For Giants versus Fnatic, this is going to be a really close match. However, Fnatic has so much more playoff experience than Giants. I think that's going to give them the edge in the playoffs. I think the pressure might get to Giants because they haven't really done that well in playoffs, and they have got all brand new players. So I do think that Fnatic will secure third place with a 3-2 victory over Giants. So that's pretty much it. Those are my predictions for the playoffs. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. And if you agree or if you disagree with how I think things are going to go down, please leave a comment. I'd love to have a further conversation with you guys over who you think is going to win, who you think is going to go to Worlds. So I hope you all have a great day. This is Randomonium signing off.